yeah, that was hot. Going out and running some errands over here in the Wild West. I got a compliment on my attire because they said it looked like I was rocking the cowboy look. Yep. And I got to run into one of my friends from college, from school. We went to school together. He's working at Winco wiping down carts, even though he's got a degree in philosophy and creative writing and English. So that's the big lie. That's one of the great lies, is if you go to college, you're supposed to get a better paying job. You could if you go to college for the right degree. So writers and philosophers and English majors don't usually get a whole lot of respect, and they don't often get hired for much of anything other than service positions, I guess. I don't know anybody who pays money for a philosopher unless, of course, you're something like Joel Osteen. You were born into a famous named family. Unlike people like me. So, fame and fortune. Came back home and talked to my writer friend. It's also a carpenter and cousin and great man. He said he's looking for a woman who is rich, sterilized, and beautiful. He said, I got 2 out of 3. I said, well, I'm sorry, I'm not very beautiful. He goes, no, I meant the rich. I'm like, I'm rich. He laughed. I said, no, there's other ways to be wealthy. I'm rich in stories and experiences and creativity and ideas and comedy and fun. I'm rich. I don't have much money, but I'm rich. And I'm thankful. My concept of treasures isn't found in diamonds or fancy cars. I don't give my children away. Unless they want to be. My children are my treasures. So, my daddy told me, from his example, is that you work hard, you come home, you work some more, you do some chores, you sit down, turn on the news, you eat dinner that, usually my mom would be the one usually cooking, but you eat dinner, you crack open a beer when you get home. You might stop at a bar on your way home too, but you crack open a beer and piddle around, relax, and then you read your Bible and watch the news and wait for the end of the world. That's the example he set me. And I remember one argument we had, or one conversation we had once, I told him I thought he was an alcoholic, and he said he was not. And he said he could quit drinking anytime he wanted to, he just didn't want to. So it's not a sin to drink alcohol. And it's also not a sin to be angry. You're just not supposed to let your sun go down on your anger. And when you're angry, you're supposed to sin not. I know a lot of people who are not alcoholics and they're rageaholics. I know a lot of people who just like to argue. Or they like to talk a lot. And they like to hear their own voice, I guess. This voice doesn't sound like my voice. This voice is different than the voice I used to have. Anyways, that was a fun outing, and I'm back home now. And this is going to be a short Bible chapter. It's short. 25. Chapter 25. Then Bildad the Shuhite replied, dominion and awe belong to God. He establishes order in the heights of heaven. Can his forces be numbered? Upon whom does his light not rise? How then can a man be righteous before God? How can one born of woman be pure? Even if the moon is not bright and the stars are not pure in his sight. Oh, if even the moon is not bright and the stars are not pure in his eyes, how much less man who is but a maggot, a son of man who is only a worm. Isn't that fun to have a God that describes you guys that way? Wow. Okay, so dominion does not belong to humans. And awe belongs to God. Unless, of course, you are a dictator. And then people have to be in awe of you. God is an orderly God. People like things to be in order in the court. You don't like disorder. No disorder and no disrespect. How high is heaven? Heaven's about as high as your head. Unless it's beyond the universe, somewhere in the outer ethers of, beyond the edges of the universe, wherever that is. Can his forces be numbered? Well, I figured out how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. That used to be an argument back in the day. I think it was due to Jesus casting out legions of demons out of the pig herder. And then, of course, the demons ran into the herd of pigs, and the pigs drowned themselves because demons, their job on earth is to kill, steal, and destroy. And so, anyways, the pig herder answered legions. There's legions of demons inside of one human being can have legions of demons. And my daughter seems to think I'm possessed. That's funny. Anyways, but the number of angels that can dance on the head of a pin is about the same number of demons that can dance on the end of a needle, depending on what is on the other side of it. Watch out for chemicals. Upon whom does his light not rise? Well, that would be like enlightenment or the sun. The sun shines on both the good and the evil. And evil to one person might be perfectly fine to another. Depends where they come from and what they see, how they see the world view. How then can a man be righteous before God? We can't be. We're not. We're just absolutely not. No. Two rights don't make a wrong. Two wrongs don't make a right. Nope. If everybody was right, then nobody would be left. And if everybody was left, nobody would be right-handed. If everyone was left-handed, there'd be no right-handed people. If everyone's brain was wired one way, there'd be no one's brains wired the other way. And then, of course, we have to attack women, because how can one born of woman be pure? Of course they can't be, because they're already filled with poop. They're already impure when they're born. You're impure. You're already wanting food, and you want shelter, and you want to be taken care of and cuddled and cooed at and bounce on a knee and sing songs and read stories and do all the fun little kid stuff. This I don't know. How much less man who is but a maggot. I remember once, bless his little heart, there was a person in my life who did not like the name Maggie because Maggie reminded him of maggots. I think Maggie's a fine name. It's got a big history to it. Margaret. That's a beautiful English name. I think Maisie is a beautiful name. It reminds me of a meadow full of daisies, a field full of daisies. Daisy, and Dr. Seuss wrote Daisy-Headed Maisie. And Maisie's a beautiful name. Reminds me of amazing. And I can do an impersonation of someone who said, Maisie? Why would you want to name her Maisie? I knew a slut in England named Maisie. That person had had more partners and ex-husbands than Elizabeth Taylor. But far be it from me to judge anybody. I am the last one to judge anyone. So even the moon is not bright and the stars are not pure in his eyes, so the moon does not really give out any light. It reflects the sun, and the sun is a star. And if the sun is not that bright in God's eyes, then wow, because if we stare at the sun, it'll blind us. So, oh wow. And if you imagine every star in the whole universe is not pure, that's some pretty intense heat that could purify anything, you'd think. So men are just worms. We're just little worms. That would explain sperm. It's got a little wiggly thing on the end of it. Men are just worms. That would explain their other little wiggly thing on the end of their body part. Just stay away from the ones that have maggots.